beautiful people, and welcome back to the Combat Carnivore. And if it's your first time, welcome to the Combat Carnivore, and make sure to like and subscribe, where together we can take back your health with steaks, strangles, and stoicism. And I'll get into that here in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and dive into today's video, which is my initial review of the Peterson Academy. The second I found out that the Peterson Academy was going to be a thing, I just waited and waited and waited. When they announced the pre-enrollment, I signed up that very first day. I've been so excited because, of course, Jordan Peterson, Michaela Peterson are both huge advocates of the carnivore diet, especially the lion diet, which is what I'm on. And those methods and that lifestyle saved my life. I do things a little bit differently than them when it comes to how I eat and what I eat specifically. However, all I eat is cow, salt, and water. So they were a big influence. They're a huge influence on the carnivore community, on the nutritional community, because it seemed so crazy at the time, and they were some of the first people at their level of status who were openly talking about this. So to me, this opportunity was a no-brainer, because as the Petersons are such advocates and they understand, right, the benefits of a carnivore diet, now they are running an academy in which one of the courses is nutrition. So I was pumped to finally get a hold of some higher education that hasn't been corrupted and brainwashed when it comes to learning about nutrition, plus all the other things. So I feel like we're finally having this marriage in an academy where, like, your psychology and physiology is directly related to your diet and nutrition, and we're making those links. So without hesitation, I signed up, and the second I got my link to join the academy and start taking the beta version of the academy and the courses, that's exactly what I did. And I wanted to make a quick video, though I'm in kind of a hectic place right now. I wanted to take the time of making an initial review of my first impression, on top of the fact I'm just so excited and I wanted to talk about it. So I don't know how much I can show, so obviously I'm not going to open the course, but when I log in, this is kind of my homepage. It's so aesthetic. I love the way they've decided to go with, like, the graphics and the theme. It's just very attractive. Of course, we got nutrition, psychology, and I mean, almost all of these courses are something I'm extremely interested in, and they're only going to be making more and more courses. As you can see right now, I have watched the Introduction to Nutrition. That's all. I have 45 minutes last night, and I finished it, but I decided to rewatch it today. Another cool thing is you have, like, your own social media here, and I won't get into that because I don't want to get in trouble for whatever reason. So like I said, overall, I just love the look and feel, the aesthetics right off the bat. Like, I feel like I'm one of the cool kids. I don't know, it's just by being part of this. I'm so excited. And as we move on to the social, it's really cool to be one of the first people to be posting in here, reading in here. Seeing all the initial people who want to revolutionize the current education system, it's just so cool to be part of it. So I won't go into this because I don't want to give anything away that's going to get me in trouble. I have my courses, which the only thing I have done so far is nutrition, as I only got my link last night and I stayed up late to start my first course. And today I think I'm going to go ahead and do my first test, which I'm excited. Then we have bookmarks, which I haven't done yet, and the ability to make posts, right? I just love it all so far. I love the feel of it, the vibe of it. And I wanted to go a little bit into my experience with the nutritional course, right? So the Intro to Nutrition, which is 6 hours with Max. I don't want to mispronounce his name. I know I already said it, but Lugavare. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. Don't be mad at me. But I know when you said it at the beginning of the course, I should have paid more attention. However, I just wanted to give my feedback a little bit so far, my initial reaction. So my overall ranking of it, right? 10 out of 10, right? 5 out of 5 stars, would recommend, would highly recommend. And I could tell right off the bat, he was ready to almost like get resistance for going against like what the mainstream nutritional narrative is. And you could see, like, believe it or not, and he used certain phrases and kind of like his posture to go against the vibe, to be on such a revolutionary platform in higher education, and to contradict the current ideology that is taking over nutrition and nutritional sciences, right? He even talked about how it's almost turning into a soft science because we have so many people influencing and manipulating the narrative and the data, so on and so forth, behind what is healthy. And he kind of talked about his personal reasons why he got into this. And as I go into these kind of like, I would say like criticisms or things that I disagree with, I am just so pumped that there is something out there that is challenging the narrative and actually giving us a realistic look and kind of like a non-biased look after looking at all the literature, all the data, all the science, however you want to look at it, providing us something that is a little bit more objective rather than agenda-based. You can tell that through his research, it had to be almost like independent and like quasi. And what I mean by that is the fact that if you get into the nutritional sciences before, you have to get involved with like the cult. You have to get involved with this like kind of movement and get brainwashed. And then if you kind of say anything against that, they strongly cast you out. They strongly make you kind of like this nuisance to society by recommending or by suggesting that perhaps like the normal sense of a healthy diet and lifestyle is not necessarily completely accurate. And then all of a sudden, just by suggesting that, you become kind of like this outcast and you become demonized, almost like you're going to hurt somebody. I have seen people calling for the fact that they want Dr. Sean Baker to be imprisoned for suggesting a carnivore diet, even though he's helped thousands, if not millions of people change their lives for the better. So anyway, I kind of felt all that. I felt all that kind of like between the lines. And you can kind of feel like the tension and the resistance in his own posture, probably because he's kind of been on the other side of this, that he would say certain things that would go against the narrative. And it would like preemptive statements like believe it or not, this is the case, so on and so forth. Again, all this to say, I'm so happy that finally in like a higher education scenario, we have the ability to resist this current like nutritional narrative of the Seventh-day Adventist and the corrupt food system. So thank you so much, Max, for doing this course. I'm going to go right into my initial review. And so as the course starts, one of the things that he says earlier in the lecture, which resonated with me, is the fact that there are no essential carbs. So right off the bat with him saying that made me feel more comfortable with him, because a lot of people are trying to say that these carbs are essential. And even in my other video that I'll post here soon, we go into Google and type in what is a healthy diet. And a lot of people who don't know any better are going to look to Google, right? And they're going to type in what is a healthy diet for me. And it was very suggestive that they were trying to push the fact that carbs are essential. And there's no such thing as an essential carb, which is incredible to hear somebody in higher education start a lecture by saying that. So right off the bat, that built credibility with me, and I was excited to move on with the rest of the course rather than being so, because right off the bat, you're very critical as somebody who's gone through this, like movement, I would say, of the carnivore. And then you hear everybody who talks about diet and nutrition in a position of authority, really. And right off the bat, you hear certain kind of like phrases or narratives that are just repeated over and over again that aren't necessarily true, but we've heard it enough times that we just consider them to be correct. So it was awesome to see him right off the bat say something that was a little bit contradictory to like the nutritional narrative and stand by that with evidence and determination. So right off the bat, I was excited to hear that he was stating that carbs are not essential in the human diet. And of course, this goes back to my opinion, but as he started to kind of relate healthy foods in the graphics, which I don't know if he's responsible for this, but in the graphics, again, we see kind of a misnomer or a misrepresentation of what healthy is and what healthy food is, because it had like leafy greens, it had like nuts and legumes, or I wasn't paying too close attention, but the stereotypical type of healthy, where it's a bunch of plant-based foods, and that is our connotation and our relationship with health, are these plant-based foods, which of course, everybody who's watching this knows I disagree with that. And take that with a grain of salt, because of course I am a carnivore, so I have certain opinions about plants, but let's move on. Another thing that I disagreed with is he continued to make the implication, and I'm sure he'll get more into this as the course goes on, but that fiber is necessary for proper gut health, which I strongly disagree with. I also disagree with the narrative that fiber is essential for proper digestion. I have not had fiber in a year and my digestion is incredible. I used to have all sorts of digestive issues. And going through my 20s, seeing gastrologists whose normal patients are like in their 40s or later, so like being the youngest person in there, having scopes stuck up certain places and down certain places I don't care to mention, looking for things because my digestion is so out of whack. And then their best advice was to increase fiber, when in fact, by decreasing fiber, and the only study that I think that has any value or authority in the space shows that reducing fiber or eliminating fiber is like one of the best things you can do to get rid of digestive issues. And we see this trend as fiber intake has increased, digestive issues have increased in proportion to that. And of course, processed foods have increased, and all these other environmental situations and toxins have been introduced as well. But you would expect to see, as we've increased fiber in our diet, that other things, like especially our digestive issues, might at least see some alleviation. However, we don't see that. And as a matter of fact, we see the opposite. We see people who are doing so much better with their digestion by eliminating fiber. So I know that we're going off the data, and I'll talk about that in a second. He talks a lot about what the data suggests. And we have to remember that the data can be extremely manipulating. And we also have to remember, what is the agenda that the people who are running these studies, what are they trying to push? And right now, we don't have a lot of studies pushing for a low fiber diet because that doesn't make anybody any money. The people who have money don't want to lose money, and by getting people away from these certain types of like narratives is going to lose them money. So no one's producing that data. So if we do nothing but follow the data, look where it's gotten us. At one point we were eating like seed oils like way too high in our diet, and the data had suggested that was healthy. And we'll get to that here in a second. So I'm going to move on. But just to recap that point, he really seems to have a positive view of fiber, to which I think can be detrimental to a lot of people. I know one specific example of a carnivore, Kent Carnivore, if you go check out his channel, who lost his colon. And so now he's kind of on this road to redemption through carnivore. And he talks about openly how he is very frustrated with the medical system by following the advice of increasing fiber to fix his health problems, digestive issues. And that led to him losing his colon. And I say colon because that's the way he pronounces it. But he lost his colon. And that's very life-altering. It can dramatically influence your quality of life forever. And it has in his case. So anyway, I do disagree with his approval of fiber and his positive dialogue, let's say, about fiber. But these are like small criticisms because, like I said, the course is incredible. So I know that was a little bit of a criticism. Like I said, the overall course is incredible. But let's now move on to something that I really enjoyed, is when he started talking about saturated fats. And he was very open to say, like, these are not necessarily bad. And he even had it in quotes like bad fats for saturated fat. Now that we know better, right, they had demonized saturated fats following the data, right, reoccurring theme. And now we know they are good fats and we need them. And as a matter of fact, we do a very good job when we consume a high amount of animal saturated fats, right? I want to say they're short chain fatty acids, but I could be wrong. I got to double check on that one. I always get them confused. Anywho, so he talks positively about saturated fats, which again is very much going against the grain of the overall inertia that is the nutritional sciences. As he mentioned before, it's almost turned into a soft science because everybody's pointing data in certain directions that benefit their agenda. So very excited for him to kind of positively advocate for saturated fat and to have somebody in the higher education system talk about that. And then we get into the trans fats, which I learned a lot here because he kind of dove into the partially hydrogenated oils, which, by the way, like, we grew up with partially hydrogenated oils, especially if you're like a millennial or maybe a Gen X. We had this in our diet for a very long time. And again, the study showed that this was good because it like mimicked saturated fat, but at the same time, it wasn't saturated fat. So it was healthy, even though it was extremely processed. And you know what's very interesting is, like, 10 years ago, they ended up banning these oils because they deemed it poisonous to the digestive system, poisonous and related to certain illnesses and diseases within humans. Within the human species, these foods are not good for you. And Dr. Anthony Chaffee talks about this a lot, how every single species out there has a very, very specific diet. There's no other species out there that can eat all these different varieties of foods and then be okay. In fact, there's a lot of study that goes into what a species appropriate diet is, and as certain species kind of go out of that range, how sick they get. I mean, we saw what happened with mad cow disease. We see what happens when animals slightly vary away from their optimum diet or their optimal diet, right? So that being said, it doesn't make sense for humans to have this huge array of foods, right? We are hyper carnivore. And I'm not here to argue that point right now, but it just doesn't make sense that we can replace things with artificial, highly processed, foods and oils and chemicals, and then all of a sudden say, that's healthier for you than the diet that your ancestors spent millions of years evolving to eat. It just doesn't make sense. Yet, if you do nothing but look at the data, and the people who were producing all the studies in that data were either religiously anti-meat, or they were trying to promote sugar to make money and addictive foods. So if you did nothing but follow the data and the science, you would have gotten extremely sick. And what's hilarious about this is it took quite a long time of this being okay, of this being legal in our food system, and we don't talk about this, that they finally deemed it illegal. So they're like, what's the data say? Oh, that's okay, put it in our food. Poison the food system, poison their population for a long time, and then be like, no, that's not okay. How much is happening currently right now that is considered poison, or rather is not considered poison in your food, yet you will find out later is in fact poison in your food? I still remember, I see this going on right now. It's now made with real chicken, or now made with real dairy, or now made with real cheese. And you're like, what the fuck was in there before? You made the suggestion, and you kind of falsely advertised to me, the consumer, who has, I guess, a little bit of trust, and where I shouldn't have had trust, to that you're giving me something that is cheese. It looks like cheese. It's advertised as cheese. And then all of a sudden, now after how many years of eating your product, now it's now with real cheese. What were you feeding me before? Which again goes to say how many foods and additives and chemicals are currently a staple in your diet that are not okay for you. Yet if you do nothing but look at the studies, right, it's going to suggest that they are in fact good for you. So I don't really like the fact that he kind of always refers to the data, because if we're waiting for the data, it's going to take a long time to catch up. Because remember, the people who are producing the studies are the people who have money, and the people who have money have a specific agenda. And that agenda is not for you to be healthy, because the healthier you become, the less they make money. And right now, the meat, there's no such thing as big meat. There's no big meat industry, right, where they can start producing all these studies to help you. And then, of course, if they end up getting the money to produce these studies, then everyone's going to go ahead and target them for producing studies that suggest that their narrative is correct, while at the same time not able to take the criticism that their studies, being sugar companies and these certain religious influences, are making their studies to back up their agendas and their claim. And so now we have a past example of people being able to make a huge profit because trans fats are extremely cheap to produce and market to everybody, and then kind of mislead us to make us think that we're making healthier choices by eating this poison, and then gaslighting us to say it's our genetics or our lifestyle is a reason why we're fat and unhealthy. It's crazy to me. So just realize that this is your food system. And if you think all of a sudden we got it all now, like we figured it all out 10 years ago and all of these processes and these poisons are gone, think again. It's getting worse almost. And he talks about these stats, 60% of an adult's diet are these ultra processed foods, and up to almost 70% of kids' diets, your children, are these ultra processed foods. And you go into a grocery store and you see the majority of these grocery stores are packed with processed foods filled in plastic, and it's insane to me that we consider this normal, and we are the ones who are the social rejects who are trying to seek a healthier lifestyle. You have to remember that it took millions of years to create our DNA. Our DNA is millions of years old, not hundreds or thousands. Okay? And when you try to make these drastic changes in such a short period of time, it's not going to coincide and work well with your body. It's going to throw you out of whack. Your homeostasis, your equilibrium, your physiology is going to be unbalanced. And that's just a fact. The more you align with your ancestors in terms of diet and lifestyle, the healthier, the cleaner, the better you will be. And as we move towards the end of the lecture, we get into the protein section. And I just love how he comes right out to say, hey guys, we have to understand that animal proteins come in like these perfect ratios for humans. Humans do the best with animal proteins. They are complete. And then he kind of goes into how plant proteins could be like fulfilling, but they come in different ratios and how there's certain problems and how you have to combine things in order to get a perfect amount. And just the fact that we have somebody who's not demonizing plant proteins makes me so happy, and that he's not going towards like the lean proteins and things of that nature, because he understands the importance of saturated fat. And so having that was really nice to say that animal protein is preferable over plant protein. And you can kind of tell, I wouldn't say like uncomfortable, but maybe that's the best word for it, like unease, where as he says that, he can just feel like the resistance, or like this perceived resistance from the people that he's talking to, or the fact that he knows that a lot of people are going to see this and criticize him because it's such a highly criticized topic. But I'm so happy that he went forward and making that claim, because it's true and it's fact. Plant proteins are not nearly as bioavailable, there we go, or nearly as nutrient dense as animal proteins. And so I'm very happy that he got into that. And so those were just some of like the highlights and certain things that I noticed. But overall, like I said, the course was incredible. Max, thank you so much for doing this. I look forward to looking at the rest of your course. I'm not going to go through this and kind of examine every single one of these courses. I'm going to do this periodically as I go throughout. So maybe here one at the beginning, one at the end. But I just wanted to give an initial review. You know what I mean? It's August 22nd right now, which means this course came out yesterday. I didn't get my link until later last night. And so I watched my first course. I just wanted to put this out there. I'm so excited to combine all these courses and to, pursue with higher education credibility now, you know what I mean, that we can cure, in my opinion, but we can at least alleviate these dramatic symptoms and these devastating symptoms of mental health, physical ailments, chronic disease, and especially amongst veterans. I don't believe that because something bad happened to you, you need to suffer forever. I believe our bodies are incredible. I think humans are, in fact, like superheroes. We are superhuman, all of us, as long as we get out of our own way. And most of the time, we're just putting crap in our body, and that's getting in the way. That's getting in the way of your ability for your body to produce its best. And a lot of people don't know that because their baseline is so shitty that what they think is good is actually baseline shit. You know what I mean? And as you start to achieve these higher echelons of health, you start to realize your baseline could have been up here your entire life. And what sucks is you've been lied to. There are layers and layers of bullshit. Like when we type in what is a healthy diet, all the horseshit that you see right off Google, saying it as like an authoritative and like a consensus that this is healthy, though we know it's heavily influenced by people with agendas that aren't necessarily best for you. It's best for their religion, or it's best for their profit. They're best for their bottom line. So, like I said, extremely excited to pursue higher education with people who are open-minded, who aren't corrupt, and to move forward with trying to save the world with steak, strangles, and stoicism. And if you like this video, please know that I'm starting a brand new YouTube channel. I have a bunch of videos in the backlog that we're going to start producing here rapidly. I'm excited for you guys to be part of it. We are saving the world with steak, strangles, and stoicism, taking autonomy over your health. We are in the business of you taking autonomy over your own health and vitality. If you go to the link in the description or the bio, depending on where I post this, this is my link tree. And remember, if you are somebody that you know is suffering from mental health, suffering from chronic illness, suffering from being obese because you're being lied to by the powers that be, please consider scheduling some time with me, okay? I have free half-hour consultations where we can meet one-on-one and discuss your next best steps, whether they're with me or whether it's just following the right path. We'll get you there. And so please do not hesitate to schedule that with me. We have my YouTube, so please like and subscribe as I start to build this channel, which is just basically me just trying to push against the current narrative that I think is poisoning society and poisoning our environment. And I want to, I guess, create as much resistance against that movement and that momentum. And I think that's going to take a lot. I think it's going to take as many of us speaking out against it until we are at least battling and making like the playing field at least somewhat level, because right now it's so detrimentally against your favor and for their profit that we have no idea, and most of us have no comprehension of what's happening to them. They are now being gaslighted, like I said, into believing that their fat and their health is due to their genetics, right? And to their decisions and having no control. It's crazy to me. So anyway, subscribe to my YouTube. This is a combat carnivore community, which I'm building right now. And this is designed to help veterans, but also designed to help anybody who wants like more personalized coaching that's not in between like having a personal coach and in between like just free information that you get on YouTube, where we are going to be discussing combat carnivore lifestyle. We're going to be discussing like jujitsu. And by the way, like I won't get into this now, but I have an entire introduction to jiu-jitsu course that's comprehensive and will always be growing, where I take you literally from being in the car to walking into the jiu-jitsu gym, everything that you need to know, which is trying to remove barriers between you getting started with a combat sport like Brazilian jiu-jitsu and like moving from that hesitation to actually walking into the gym. And in addition to that, we have our stoic and philosophical discourse, right? I believe strongly in having a practical life philosophy that's non-dogmatic in order to influence and impact your life. And like I said, there's nothing here yet, so I'm just introducing this to the public. And I believe that Stoicism, Taoism, and other practical life philosophies are super impactful. So anyway, this is my online community where I'm going to be having, calls, so like Skype calls 4 days a week for people to be able to ask questions. People are going to be able to ask questions in here. We're going to have dialogue going for all of these different categories that we have. And so I'm so extremely excited about, changing the world with steak, strangles, and stoicism. So this is the online community that dives a little bit more into that. And then the Spotify as I start to release the podcasts that we're going to do. And then we have Make Veterans Great Again merchandise. So if you want to get that, or a rash guard if you're into jiu-jitsu, I think it's extremely important because we are going to use the proceeds from that in order to get this message out to as many people as possible. And this is an ex-martial fight gear. So if you're in jiu-jitsu or combat sports, this is my link through here. And if you type in over here, Make Veterans Great Again, you are going to find my Make Veterans Great Again rash guard. So let's just type this in, Make Veterans. So yeah, when we click in here, so we have men's, women's, and kids. So anywho, that's like all the stuff that I'm attached to. And as the channel grows, it'll be a lot smoother and apparent. But anywho, you can follow me on, Instagram, YouTube, go to the community, or schedule some time with me. I'm very excited to hear from you. And I'm very excited to continue my education with the Peterson Academy. You guys are awesome. Thanks for doing this. Max, thank you for putting, your reputation on the line in order to do this course. I know that you're going to get a lot of feedback and continue to get feedback, especially now that you are doing this through the Peterson Academy. And I will continue to provide my experience, which I'm sure will be extremely positive, through my journey with the Peterson Academy. So guys, I love you so much. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to all the things I just talked about. Remember, you can take back your own health with steak, strangles, and stoicism. If you want to learn more, you know where to go. And as always, don't do drugs, don't eat vegetables. See you guys next time.